Hello. Why are we critiquing Lockheed and Pride? I'm/my family is actually a Lockheed investor or investors. Those dividends paid for my degrees, and I'm gay as can be. True, you guys. You guys, how could you critique these weapons manufacturers when they're doing the grassroots organizing work that needs to be done? They're showing up at Pride. Some of their corporate shareholders getting these $1 million dividends off of war and the massacre of Palestinian children are gay. So it's a very progressive weapons manufacturing company. And, for you guys to critique that, it just seems really bigoted in my view. So I'm no longer going to watch Midwestern Marx. And anybody who follows Midwestern Marx, I'm also going to cancel. So sorry.
Well, the neo-Nazis that they're sending all of these Lockheed weapons to are super progressive neo-Nazis too.
Mhm.
Like when they talk about, removing the Muscovite stain from the earth and slaughtering all the Russian orcs, they're doing it in an LGBT friendly way.
Right. Yeah, they held a pride parade funded by and organized by U.S. NGOs like 2 years ago in Ukraine, and only a few people got attacked by the neo-Nazis. So it's a very progressive liberal democracy over there. Yeah, so what gets us on this topic, sarcasm and hilarious jokes aside, is Lockheed Martin legitimately went to a pride parade. This is our good friend Dan Kovalik, friend of the show. What is Lockheed Martin proud of? Murdering people abroad for money? Hashtag woke imperialism. So, yeah, I mean, we covered recently all the State Department tweets for Pride Month, all the CIA tweets for Pride Month, Anthony Blinken, Joe Biden, all of the heads of the American empire right now utilizing LGBTQ symbolism and the movement to put a progressive face on the face of murderous imperialism, and imperialism that enforces like a white supremacist global system in which the white West is held as the global hegemon. So the hypocrisy is clear. I guess I'll let you guys comment and I'll stop rambling after we.
Explosive diversity. Look, here's the thing. Pride begins from the old militant gay movement, right? The movement that fought back and said, get your politics out of my bedroom. I have a right to sleep with whomever I damn well please and act however I damn well please. And that movement was important for the US. This and this sort of mass marketization of this trivializes the militancy and necessity of that movement. And it drives me goddamn crazy because I have a lot of friends who were a big part of that. And here's the thing. This sort of ideological shift of the bourgeoisie that pushes the sort of, what is it, diversity, equity, inclusion thing that's all over every college campus begins in the boardrooms of places like Lockheed Martin. It begins in the boardrooms of the giant cartels of Citigroup and CVS Health and all the rest of them. And so what it does is this is them legitimately thinking they are expressing their own progressiveness. And in the process, giving a big old middle finger to the entire genuine movement, taking it and pushing it in their own direction. And that is something that everyone who is interested in real liberation and real equality needs to fight against. It's the difference between liberation and wokeism.
That's perfectly said, brother. And this is why it's important to criticize it. I mean, every time we bring it up, there's always someone like, why do we got to call it wokeism? Wokeism has its roots in the black community, et cetera, et cetera. We know that. But I think the disagreement is with these people is usually not in terms of the concept, but in terms of the term. Some of these people reject using the term woke and whatever. I think the term woke is a good term. Wokeism is a good term to describe it because it also represents a pseudo form of enlightenment. Like these companies are enlightened, they're awakened, and this is why you should support their capitalism at home and their imperialism abroad, which is just the same as the capitalism at home, a different stage of it. And it becomes an indispensable component of bourgeois hegemony today, at a time when the vast majority of people, especially younger people, have sensibilities that align themselves with, these progressive movements, the gay rights movement, the black freedom struggle, the women's struggle, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they align themselves with the victims of, colonialism, imperialism, capitalism, and marginalized communities abroad that are suffering oppression. And so the only way that they can legitimize their actions is through an appeal to this, to make it seem as if what they're doing is actually defending one of these groups that their populace aligns with emotively abroad. And so you need to have that narrative of, oh, we're attacking China because they have a Uyghur Muslim minority that we really care about. It doesn't matter that the US has killed 4.5 million people in the Middle East in the last 20 years, displaced 50 million of them. We really care about these Muslim people that have certain terroristic elements that we are, we just remove them from the list. So obviously that means that the terroristic elements are no longer there, and we might have funded them for some decades, but whatever, who cares? The terroristic elements are no longer there. Or no, we have to overthrow Venezuela's government, not because they're socialists and because they're, they have their resources nationalized and et cetera, but it's because Maduro oppresses supposedly LGBTQ people. And we have to overthrow Cuba, not because of the same reasons that we've been giving for the last 60 years, but actually it's because they oppress black artists. They don't let the artists that we give millions of dollars to through the NED, they don't just let them go around trying to overthrow the government. How can they be so oppressive? So the thing is that it isn't just accidental properties of narratives. It's interconnected, and it's an essential component of the way that specifically the liberal wing of empire, which is the most successful in attaining hegemony and attaining consent in the populace, it's an essential component of that wing. And if you don't criticize it because you're scared that by saying wokeism or by criticizing wokeism you'll be lumped in with the idiots in the right that are just the mirror of wokeism, you're going to have at best one-sided understanding of imperialism. And in order to win this battle, we need to attack bourgeois ideology in general. It's a war of hegemony, and we can't just fight one side and say, well, the other one at least says that they like gay rights, so we won't attack it. That's bullshit. We got to attack it for what it is. It's got nothing to do with emancipatory movements, not for gay people, not for black people, not for women. It's really just the diversification of empire, the diversification of our oppressors and our exploiters, and that it couldn't be any farther from emancipation. It's actually the opposite. It's what keeps us dormant, thinking that diverse exploiters are actually what's going to liberate us, and that having our exploiter be black or gay or trans, whatever the hell, means that I'm finally free. No, it doesn't. It means that you are still getting fucked in the ass, but you're getting fucked in a way that it's harder for you to notice that you're getting fucked because they're passing themselves off as progressive.
Beautifully
Exactly.
said. I just want to real quick jump in, Eddie, because I know I see you ready to go. Real quick, there's an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia where the characters Mac and Dennis are saying the same thing, and he goes, "What am I going to vote for? The Democrat that wants to blast me in the ass, or the Republican that wants to blast me in the ass?"
Dude, I played that on the last stream. Did you see it?
I haven't seen that one yet. No,
I opened the stream with literally
Oh,
that clip.
yes. Oh, I can't wait to listen to that tomorrow.
That's funny. Yeah, it's literally this meme. And I just want to add, I know a lot of our audience knows what Lockheed Martin is, but here's a piece from Workers World that shows how much Lockheed Martin has profited off of the occupation of Palestine, the firing of missiles at Gaza and killing of Palestinian children and enforcing of an apartheid. All subsidized by your tax dollars, by the way. So Israel has all these contracts with companies like Lockheed Martin, and then the government, U.S. government, gives them $3 billion a year, and they can use that money to purchase weapons from Lockheed Martin. So it's ultimately a subsidy from the U.S. government using your tax dollars to pay Lockheed Martin, but it also helps maintain the U.S.'s neo-colonial project that is the state of Israel. So that's Palestine. Trillions of dollars in Afghanistan were split between the major weapons manufacturers, of which Lockheed Martin is one. And then here's one on Afghanistan and Iraq, I think. This one covers the millions of dollars that they made in Iraq. So all of the major imperialist interventions going on right now, or at least in the last 2 decades, Lockheed Martin has been a part of, and this is Lockheed Martin's marketing right now. So like Carlos said, if you're not criticizing the way that they co-opt social movements or the way that they co-opt pride in order to market themselves and push for imperialism, you're just missing the face of imperialism right now. Like, this is their strategy. You know, this is what they're doing. And like Noah said, this is harmful to people in these communities. This is harmful to gay and trans people. The fact that the imperialists are co-opting their movement, and they don't care about gay people. They don't care about trans people. They don't care about people at all. They care about their bottom line. You know, they're just co-opting their struggle to make you think that Lockheed Martin could somehow be progressive. And it's absolutely disgusting. And everybody who considers themselves an anti-imperialist, leftist, socialist should stand against this rainbow washing of imperialism.
As Daniel Miller here argues nicely, these companies, Lockheed Martin and others, were nowhere to be found when the gay community needed their support in the 80s, 90s. It's profitable for them to be supportive. It's the only reason why they are. Absolutely, and that's the bottom line. And you know, it's difficult because they play on emotions that leftists hold very dear, the concern for the rights of minorities, and the sentiment to oppose oppression and in every form that it manifests itself. But we can't let them play with our emotions so that we end up supporting and consenting to their order of death, of literal death and destruction. Like, they're waging humanity towards a precipice of nuclear Armageddon. And, you know, they're trying to convince you that one side is better than the other because one side is okay with the pride flag and the other isn't, or something. Reject that false binary that they're trying to prop up in order to get you to consent to empire, and realize that, you know, that's neither emancipation of humanity in general when they do that, and it's also not emancipation of the particular groups that they claim to be doing it for. So
I think it's the difference between the new bourgeois ideology and the old one, right? They aren't sort of like just cynically doing this. They embody this new ideology, and like Lockheed Martin genuinely believes this is good for the LGBT community, right? Which is absolutely absurd. That's like saying because Obama was president that black people are good now. You know, they don't suffer anything at all. They're great. Obama was president. Racism over. Let's go home. Right? But that's not how it works. And just as Carlos was just saying, it gives a false view of liberation, kind of, right? By allowing their sort of like representation, diversification of the ruling class, they pretend that liberation is accomplished when it couldn't be anything further from the truth. What it does is create a false consciousness that gets in the way of genuine liberation. It's sort of what it's the same as when they were talking about decolonizing Russia. It's just a woke way to attack Russia.
yeah, and it's not just companies. You know, we've seen the CIA, the FBI do it, and various other State Department agencies do this whole game where they, even the military has done advertisements where they try to posit themselves up as, you know, the most pro LGBTQ and the most diverse,
The
equitous, and
CIA.
inclusive, yeah, Yeah, they literally had that ad maybe 2 years ago where it was like a Hispanic woman that was an immigrant and a lesbian and queer and uh, I think she had like another mental health issue. She was like depressed or suffered from anxiety. They added every single possible box that they could check off, and then she was like, "And I feel at home in the CIA." It's like, mother effort, come on, man. But
No,
they're doing it. They have to.
They've been doing
yeah,
that since the 70s and Gloria Steinem. You know, she was talking about how great and progressive the CIA was as they're cooing nations all across the tri-continent, you know?
yeah, I do know, but I also think it's hella fucked up that you guys don't support decolonized Russia and China. Like, this is an idea straight from the grassroots of the American people, the CIA, who are in touch with the American workers, and this is nobody in Russia or China actually wants this outside of a fringe of separatists armed and backed by the US, most of whom don't even live in China and Russia anymore. But this is what we should want as progressives because they called it decolonization. So
Queer pilots make warplane killing of babies acceptable.
this is a real thing though. Like I've seen this be pushed, and I've seen leftists on Twitter pushing this, like the decolonized map of Russia and China. And again, this is not what the people of Russia and China want. They're multi-ethnic nations, and there's good analysis of this in Marxism and the National Question from Stalin when he's talking about how there are different nationalities within one nation state in a lot of cases, but in a lot of cases there are not, and there can be drawbacks to that. But yeah, this is the U.S. trying to take that principle of national self-determination that during the Cold War the Soviets supported in the global South, when these countries were fighting for their independence from Western colonizers, trying to take that and use it against Russia and China. To use it against Russia and China and say, look, you have different nationalities within your country. Yes, you're taking care of those people, especially in China, taking care of those people and giving them cultural and political rights, but we're going to support separatism and call it decolonization.
Well,
And
not
from a
only that,
political,
it's the highest form of reaction. It's trying to go backwards in time to a time before these people had grown closer together and become one people. You know, in some
Yeah.
cases, it's hundreds and thousands of years they want to decolonize. It's absurd. It's believing there's such a thing as a time machine.
It's like saying the fascists in Ukraine are decolonizing the Donbass.
I want to bring up this good comment by Kwewi. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. It says, I'd imagine it'd be pretty easy to spot a CIA agent, upper class, Ivy League educated, white, straight U.S. male. That's why he then goes on to say they need the diversity.
Hmm.
And there's a part of that that's, I think, very on point. Like, it's if you have a very diverse CIA agent that has the boxes that aren't traditionally crossed off, specifically in like media and Hollywood films and stuff, it makes them harder to be spotted, and they become better assets of empire, even as individuals. So that's a really good point, I think.